Hello, friends. So, I'd like to talk a little bit about a few things. I would really like to catch up with talking and sharing my thoughts, since it's been very tricky for me to just hold my own space for a while here in New York, working with people and constantly being inundated by people who want massages and yoga lessons, meditation lessons, and tantra lessons, and getting the tantra mixed up with the massage that I do. So it's been a constant thing. People think that I do tantra massage. I do not do tantra massage. I do not have any interest in working with people at the level of playing with their genitals. I don't do that. I teach tantric self-cultivation. I teach you how to be pleasure, which is tantra's true goal. I teach yoga's true goal also, which is to be pleasure. They're both the same thing, essentially. So, yoga is a little bit more specific though, actually, because it's about being one with the creative energy that created everything, right? So the supreme source. So how do you become one with the supreme source? That's the thing. So we're going to go into that a little bit here. So it's quite a complicated topic, so nobody can expect me to get this all covered in one video. So basically, yoga has been deprioritized or taken out of its original format. It's been offset. It's been subterfuged. I don't know how to describe it better. I'll come up with better words eventually. It's not central around the original concept. So I can take yoga and Buddha and talk about these both similarly too. They're both part of the same thing. That's what's amazing. So if you see the Buddha in the road, on the path, kill him. Why is that? How can you possibly kill someone that you cannot see anyway? You know, that's the mystery there, I think, behind that. We should ask more questions, in my opinion, in regard to all of these sayings that we just repeat and share and just constantly just always just copying and sharing the same sayings. Nobody's perfect. Everyone's got their own path. You know, these things are actually incredibly destructive idioms, incredibly destructive platitudes, whatever you want to call them, sayings. You know, it's just like, well, so if you do not have certain qualities, you cannot see them in your fellow man. How about that for a saying, for one thing? If you do not have certain qualities, you cannot see them in your fellow man, because if you see somebody who's actually enlightened, for instance, you're not really going to know that they're actually enlightened unless you have a certain set of qualities in yourself. So that's what's beautiful about enlightenment, actually. It is its own exclusive club. I know that we're all into this inclusivity thing these days, but you just have to face reality and facts sometimes. Sometimes things are their own exclusive club because that's just the way nature is. You know, like we've got, in this world, we've got categories of species and phyla, you know, and different types of creatures in this world that they're just their own group, right? They're exclusively what they are. You cannot be an all-inclusive animal. I mean, you can make that up as a human being because we have this power of what I call dreaming out loud, where we can just create from our imagination, from our visions. We can make our visions manifest. There's really nobody that can do that. I know I'm kind of like getting all over the place with my topics, but just bear with me. I'll get back to center. So, back to the enlightenment topic. It is very important to understand that if you do not have certain qualities, you cannot see them in your fellow man. And, you know, often a person who is, let's say, of a high vibration is not going to be understood by people who are of a low vibration. So, for instance, let's just simplify this. If you're actually happy and you have a habit of smiling and you go around in public with a little smile on your face, and the general populace is not really so happy, in fact, miserable. And that misery, of course, is caused by denial of the fact that one is not as happy as they could be. It gets confrontational to a person who is in misery when they witness or experience somebody who is actually happy, because they can't register that way of being, since they are manufacturing a state of happiness rather than actually living in it. So when a miserable person comes in contact with a happy person, often the miserable person cannot appreciate that happy person's happiness, you know? And instead of appreciating it, they take annoyance in it. And they're just like, what are you so happy about, you know? And that's incredibly destructive to oneself, because that has no esteem in it. And I know we don't really esteem one another in society either. And that's a bit of an issue, right? This is why we're in a bit of a social decline these days. We've got a lot of very unhappy people who really are basing their life around expressing that unhappiness, or attempting to pull others down into their place of unhappiness. You know, it's like that misery loves company principle, right? So to a person of high vibration, or to a person of low vibration, a happy person is annoying. They cannot appreciate the happiness. And that is low self-esteem. That's essentially how it works. You cannot appreciate qualities in other people that you do not at least have a little bit of. If you're starting to work in that direction, then you may be able to engage in the exclusive club of esteem, where you actually are respecting and really appreciating somebody else for the qualities, the skills, the abilities, the things that they have done. And that's a beautiful thing. It's very good for one's self to esteem others. And I recommend doing it as much as you can. Esteeming others is psychic altruism. And psychic altruism will make you a happier person. And that is part of self-love and self-care. Part of self-love and self-care is actually appreciating and celebrating the strength, the beauty, the grace, the skill, intelligence, happiness, all the good things in other people. This is how we hold a field of merit, you know, and this is the preceding field to the Buddha field. And, you know, it's a wonderful thing. A lot of people don't understand that the Buddha does not need to even have a gender or a certain look at all. You know, what are you looking for in a Buddha? A lot of people don't seem to understand that the original depictions of Buddha had no person. They had objects that represented a person's presence, but there's no person being depicted. They often used depictions of parasol, a empty chair, and there's a lot more. If you look into Buddhist symbolism, the things that represent this this supreme energy of Buddha. They're not the enlightened one. They're not this person that's sitting in an austere position of meditation, or lying down, or happy. Like, these are great things. They're all wonderful, meritorious ways of a human being to be in meditation, in rest, like a peaceful, happy rest, and a celebratory, happy, like, yay, But we originally had just a parasol and an empty chair. Those were the first ones, as far as I understand, that depicted the Buddha. And there's also the unicorn. There's the single horn, which I find very interesting too, because we have this dynamic of this single horn being replicated all over Asia in many ways. Like, they have deity depictions where they're wearing a crown or a hat of some kind, and it goes up to a point. You're going to see that that's part of that energy, or the unilome, which is the representation of the progress toward perfection, which is just this little swirly shape, and then it goes up into a lotus to represent the process of a lotus becoming its perfect lotus self on top of the water, starting from underneath the mud. And I love that symbolism. No mud, no lotus. So the lotus is just a wonderful symbol, right? Because the lotus seed in nature goes into a body of water, and it will eventually find its way under the mud, and then it will germinate, and eventually it comes up and becomes its beautiful self coming out of the water. The thing is often, which is really fun, I love this, often the lotus seed is forgotten, because sometimes it takes 1 or 2 years for that seed to actually get where it needs to be and begin its germination process and to sprout. So it's really wonderful that we forget about it, and then it's like you may have even given up on it, leave it behind, just not. And one day, all of a sudden, here it comes. It emerges from the water, and it's like a miracle, because you gave up. Anyway, I know I kind of got a little onto another tangent there, but all these representations of Buddha we have taken for granted, and I've noticed a lot of people want to direct bitter energy or even hatred, distaste toward the concept of the Buddha because he started out wealthy, and I guess people resent that, or they want to resent that. I've heard people resenting that, and it's just like, you weren't even there. Why are you holding on to this, not happy feeling about someone you have never met? You will never know the qualities of a Buddha at all if you're always clinging on to this bitterness or this hatred or this distaste or disgust. Disgust is one of the 5 sufferings. We call it aversion or dvesha. So that's, of course, not the first suffering, though. First suffering is avidya. Avidya is not knowing the way that the universe or God works, not knowing the science of God, they say. And that's normal. It's so normal for us to have that avidya. Avidya is often very simplified in the English-speaking world as ignorance, which is perfectly fine. But I still think we cannot have too many words to describe these sufferings. There is no too many words to describe them. You can go on and on and on about how these sufferings spawn from one another. So that first avidya, not knowing how God works, not surrendering to God, will be your first way of avoiding avidya and not understanding where avidya is coming from, or avoiding vidya itself, because vidya is what you want. Vidya is the clear seeing. It's the understanding that we all need in order to resolve these sufferings. And if you do not resolve the suffering of avidya, you will easily be led down the path to the next one, asmita. And asmita is not knowing yourself. Oh my gosh, they call it egoism. You know, it's just egoism. Let's just call it that and move on, shall we? We've got a lot of things to do. No, come on. You know, avidya is such a big deal because it's happening now in such a thick on the ground kind of way. You know, we are in an identity crisis of the next level these days. Next level identity crisis, right? Because we've got identity politics, we've got commercialism that goes into how do you want to express your identity, which, you know, you can sell all types of things based on an identity crisis to help people find themselves. You can buy a whole new wardrobe every year to try to find yourself. I mean, this just endless. I don't really want to go too much more into it because a lot of you will begin to understand. I'm just opening cans of worms for you to explore here, you know? And yeah, it's just the way it is. So we have those two, and then the next one, I don't have any paperwork with me, so I'm going off of memory. I may be getting these out of order. I'm pretty sure that I have it right though. So the next one is raga, I believe, because for the dvesha, you are going to end up clinging to externals. Raga is your clinging aspect. It is the proclivity toward whatever you have, like a tendency toward something. Like, I really, really love that. You may be obsessed with something. You may identify with an external so much that you are losing your true self to this thing you're clinging to as, oh no, I need that to be myself. You know, and so there is your raga, your obsessive clinging proclivity toward whatever object or idea or concept that is really not even based in permanence or truth or the absolute. So, and then after the clinging, the obsession, the I want, I like, I need, you have the next one, dvesha. Dvesha is aversion, disgust. We already just went into that a little bit ago. If you go back in the video, or the pieces of this video, I'm sure I'm going to break this up. That disgust, I've noticed, really stops love. It stops the energy of love dead in its tracks, like gone. You know, so if you are, you know, in raga, which is often, it can be considered to be a form of love. And also, if you read Buddhist sutras, especially the Vimalakirti Nirdesha Sutra, it says that love is a form of stupidity. Love comes from stupidity. And yeah, it really does. And if you're in love, it's a form of insanity, you know? So, alright, have fun with that. You know, go get your heart broken. You know, have your expectations that somebody else will give to you something you want, or behave a certain way that you need, or be with you in any capacity that you are clinging to, and just, you know, you're gonna hurt yourself. You know, so okay, that's dvesha. You know, that's raga actually. And then if the other person though has dvesha toward you, and you have raga for them, you have a whole mess, you know? You're loving them and they're disgusted in you. No bueno. You know, you can't do anything with that. So, and the next one is abnibesha. Abnibesha. That is fear of death. So your fear of death is very, very normal. You know, everybody is afraid of dying, right? You know, okay, some people are not. Some people, but these people, you won't recognize them. Once again, you cannot see qualities in your fellow man if you do not have them yourself. You know, so, but this is what makes a person a mystic. A mystic is a person who has qualities other people cannot see. You know, they may be depicted in this way and that way, and people may all disagree about how this person is. There may be completely divergent opinions or views, about this person. One party may say, this person is an angel. They are beautiful, they're wonderful, they're good, they're intelligent, they're honest. And another party may say the complete inverse. They'll be like, no, they're a devil. They are dishonest. They are fooling people. They are just glamour. They're not real, you know? So this is where we have that caveat of, if you see the Buddha in the road, kill him. Tell me how you will see that person, ever. He won't. Only a Buddha can see a Buddha. Only an enlightened person can see an enlightened person. And this gets into the siddhis, the powers that are gained through accomplishments in this world, through meritorious behavior, not necessarily just practicing yoga, but then again, that is practicing yoga. We just have yoga deformatted. It has been decentralized. Yoga has been turned into a prison. It's a prison on a mat, you know? Because if you check into yoga, you even dip a pinky finger into Patanjali's sutras, you are going to find that yoga is much bigger than asana and pranayama, which is what you mostly just do in the yoga studio. So we also have truthful speech, which is something that I believe I'm doing right now. So this is actually yoga that you are witnessing. This is a part of yoga. Yoga has to do also with speaking true words and being honest, meaning what you say, saying what you mean, and doing what you say, you know? And it's just sometimes we can't always do everything that we say, though. So you have to have a little bit of leeway. You have to give a little bit of leeway to the possibility that some people, some circumstances, some things may not all line up to the ideal, because, hey, life happens. It's chaotic. Sometimes a person says they will do one thing and then they do another, but they really didn't mean to. It's only because circumstances have shifted, you know? And that's a tricky one. We can get away with a lot with that true fact. Some people can out lie and deceive people and say, oh, I'm going to do this one thing, and they have it already set up in their mind. They are totally not going to do that thing. They're going to do another thing. That is, you know, you're being deceptive, you're being maybe even deceitful. Yeah. And when it comes down to evil, there's no evil in the universe, but humans do these two things that boil down to what we call evil, and that is subjugation and deception. So if you're going to always behave deceptively and subjugate others, you are not going to raise your vibration. You're not going to actually be a happy person, because you are creating a field of misery because you are harming others, and that is going to reflect on you. The harm that they suffer will in some way come back to you. So this is part of yoga. So I do recommend checking in a little bit more to your heart, because that is a big part of yoga. Checking into your heart can be done in your meditations. If you are practicing yoga on a mat, with your breathing practices, with your yoga studio, whatever it is, and you are not meditating, how do you check into your state of being? How do you check in to your heart? How are you testing yourself to see what level of peace, joy, happiness, contentment, part of yoga, right? We got a lot going on with yoga, and it's going to take a little bit more mental work, a little bit more processing, a little bit deeper understanding for you to actually deepen your so-called practice. And that's yet another can of worms. Why are you all practicing? What are you practicing for? Why don't you embrace yoga? I recommend embracing yoga, because if you do that, then your whole life will become yoga, and not just this practice session that you do here in a studio, and then you go there and you go punch your wife in the face, or I don't know, go do heroin or lie all day long. There are a lot of people who have become very famous and very successful in the yoga industry who are now dead because they were using drugs and alcohol. They, one big example, one big example of that is the founder of Core Power Yoga. Core Power Yoga was one of the biggest yoga chains in the United States. And I actually started my in-studio yoga practice in Core Power Yoga's first studio in Denver, Colorado. And I met the founders of this studio. One was from South Africa, one was from here in the United States. They were business partners who started this wonderful company. Very, very big, very successful business. And the original founder, the American founder, he died. Very unfortunate death. But people even suspected it could have been foul play because it was so weird. But the thing is he was troubled. He was a troubled person. And I could see that the day that I practiced with him. When he did an appearance in the studio and was like, okay guys, I'm going to teach you. He looked like a wreck. I don't know why. He just looked like he maybe had a hangover or something even, He just looked not really all together. And he had a very disheveled kind of energy. And I don't know, even though I was fairly new in the yoga practice at that time, I had already experienced a Satori in 2002. So it was like 2003 that I started practicing in studios. And I had already been doing my own thing since I was 11 years old, though. I just never been into a studio. I already knew yoga by age 11 now. It was just so weird to be so close, have such close contact with these founders of this successful business, and see where they went down the path. The man, I think Dave was his name, that was from South Africa. He went back to South Africa at some point. I think probably the original founder's name was Tyler. They didn't get along. I think at some point they had a breakup of some kind. They just couldn't be working with each other anymore. And yeah, Dave went back to South Africa, back to Cape Town, and Tyler just kept doing his thing with running this big chain. And I'm sure he had a really big house, he had a really nice life, and he could consume anything he wanted, which apparently included alcohol combined with prescription opiates. So he had, I think it was Vicodin and alcohol. But anyway, why are we doing this if we are in our yoga? If we are practicing our contentment, our santosha. That is not a contented place to be. Santosha is a very big deal for you to check into your heart about. So just, stick with me if you can. Follow me if you haven't yet. And I will work on continuing to share these little tidbits about what it is to be yoga, what it is to be pleasure, rather than approaching them as an external that you just kind of mess with or, express a bunch of enthusiasm for, and then go do other things. You can embrace, you can totally live your yoga. You can live your pleasure. And it's a beautiful thing. It's the supreme self-love, in my opinion. That is self-care, self-love to the absolute, the guidance of yoga and Buddhism. And I don't really like to talk about Buddhism. I like to talk about the qualities of Buddha, because it is, I think, a more precise way of sharing, since originally Buddha did not design a religion. It was simply sharing his realized thoughts about reality. It's just about reality. It's about truth. So reality and truth are the only things that will keep you sane and happy in a genuine way in this world. And that, I'm sorry, no, I don't want to hear anything about how everybody has their own path. That is BS. Sure, everybody has their own path, and that is why everybody is lost. But you can find your way back to the path if you realize there is truth, and then there is truth. Everything is true. And what does the Buddha mean by that? Because that's a teaching of the Buddha. I took some time to process that and ask deeply inquire, how is everything true? I know people are lying. I know there are deceptions. I know I could tell you that my hair is platinum blonde and I look like a Barbie doll. But that's not a fact, So that is truly untrue. This is how everything is true. You cannot escape the truth. The truth will never change. It will never be altered. And when you augment the truth, that's just the truth augmented, which is distortion. So that's how everything is true. So thank you for listening to my lecture. I've gone over 30 minutes. I'm pretty happy now that I've done this. And I'm very happy to share this with you. So thank you guys for listening in. And I'll see you soon. Oh, my mic. This thing died.